This segment is all about selling your business in today's economy. Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. And this segment's brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. Joining me on this segment is Jim Beno. He's the CEO of Business Broker Experts Incorporated. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you inviting me.
Jim, tell us a little bit about your work and specifically who are the types of clients that you help?
Sure. I'm mainly working with companies that are doing annual revenues between a million and 20 million. Um, Geographically, I'm out of the Chicagoland area, but I've sold businesses in multiple different states, so it kind of depends on the type of business. I'm part of what I do is not only help them sell for a premium price, but it's beyond just the selling price. It's about what do you take home after all the taxes and everything like that. So there's a lot of considerations that have to be done on how the acquisition is done.
Jim, with the level of business owner that you work with, they're great at growing their businesses, growth, but how much, thought do they really put into the sale or the preparing of the sale of the business? What have you found when you first start to meet with these folks? How prepared are they to sell?
That's an interesting question. It's all over the map. I would say the vast majority of the people have kind of been thinking about it for 6 months or a year, and that's it. They really haven't done any exit planning. There's some of the clients have done some exit planning and have taken steps, but it's kind of like when you sell your house. You do, there's things you can do to get a higher sale price. You put carpet in, coat of paint, make it look nice, and there's things you can do with your business as well too that really should be thought about before you go to market.
Now, the analogy you spoke of selling your house, I know it's a lot different because you could think about selling your house today and you could be in the market like in a week or two. How do business owners think that? What are the preconceived notions that business owners feel when it comes to selling their business, and how much time do they really need to prepare?
That's an excellent question, Mark, and you're right. A lot of times sellers are very naive as far as how quickly it will sell as well. Like they say, hey, I need to get this business sold within 60 days. Typically it's going to take anywhere from 8 to 12 months to complete a transaction on businesses that are sold. If you're working with an SBA loan, it's that alone will take 2 to 3 months. Um, and there's a lot of steps. Typically on a listing that I take, I'm probably about 100 hours of my time in before we even go to market. There's a confidential marketing booklet that has to be written up, the blind teaser ad. There's a lot of things that have to be done before you can go to market. Because once you go to market, you have buyers inquiring and you're sending out non-disclosure agreements. That marketing booklet is really important because if it's a page and a half and it's sloppily done, that's the buyer's first opinion of your business. So you really need to take. I work with the seller, and obviously it's their business, so I need their input. But there's a lot of things that have to be done beforehand before you can even go to market. Typically, it's going to take anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks just to get to market. So, and as far as selling the real estate, you also had mentioned it's a lot different. There's a lot of moving parts. Um, Typically, I'm only working with 4 or 5 sellers at one time because I can't have 15 listings like in real estate. Because if I'm working 50 hours a week and I have 15 listings, that means I'm working 3 hours a week trying to sell your business. And I can tell you, your business is probably not going to get sold if I'm only working 3 hours a week on it.
Speaking of businesses going unsold, I've read a statistic that as much as 80% of businesses that go on the market end up unsold. Can you break that down for us and tell us like what makes the difference? Why do businesses go unsold? What's the biggest stumbling block?
That's you're absolutely right on that, and statistically about 1 out of 5 businesses will sell, and there's a multiple of reasons for that. So for instance, there's some businesses that just shouldn't be sold. Maybe they're on the market, but if they're not making any money, sales are down, maybe it's a heavy regulated industry, you know people aren't going to spend money on something that's going to cost them an investment unless there's an opportunity for them to turn it around. Um, some of the other factors that I think really impede a sale would be um, how good are the seller's financial records? Do they have a shoebox of receipts, or do they have a CPA that actually gives them monthly financial statements? And even if they don't have a monthly financial statements, at least a CPA that does their taxes at the end of the year, and they have a good QuickBooks or some type of accounting software that they can show the potential buyers, these sales are real, these expenses are real. Another big factor is how much how involved is the owner. So, for instance, Mark, let's say you said uh, my business would probably be unsellable because let's say you said, "Hey, I want to get into business brokering," and I said, "Okay, can I buy your business?" Well, I could sell you my business, my website, but when you talk to sellers and they ask you, how many businesses have you sold, and so my business is really dependent upon me, and I see a lot of times there's a lot of business owners that they've started their business because they like to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and they want to be involved in every aspect of the business. But the ideal seller for me is somebody where the owner is just kind of making strategic decisions. They have a sales force that handles all the sales. They've got customer relations people, so they're not the contact person for the customers and the vendors and the suppliers. So the less touch they have makes it easier to sell the business. Um, one last thing I see is that makes it hard too is that when sales are declining and year after year and profits are declining, a lot of times I see people that are 70 years old and they're slowing down, and maybe they're golfing twice a week with their buddies and working 20 hours a week instead of working 40 or 50 hours a week, and that's fine. The challenge is all buyers are skeptics, so when they see the numbers going down, it's a sellable business, but they're just not going to get the multiple that they could have, had they sold it when the numbers are trending up.
Great insights. Jim, what inspired you to get into this field and help business owners with their transitions and selling their businesses? How did you get started?
Interesting question. Um, I have been a serial entrepreneur, had several businesses since the late 90s, and have bought my own businesses, sold my own businesses. On the last transaction that I exited, um, I was kind of thinking I'm too young to retire. What am I going to do? And I thought there was a real need for business brokers that not only were previous business owners, so they understand all the hats an owner wears, but there's I think a need for somebody too with a financial background. I mean, when you're reviewing P&Ls and tax returns, some type of an accounting background is definitely beneficial. So, and that's kind of how I got into the field. I really enjoy it. I see all different types of businesses. It's everything. It's very interesting because no two businesses are alike.
That keeps it fascinating. Jim, before I ask you my last question, in regards to selling a business in today's economy, is there anything that I didn't think to ask you that you feel is important to share with business owners today?
Sure. So there's always something in the economy, right? That is going to create an issue for a seller. In the last few years, we've had COVID, we've had supply chain issues, we had labor shortage, which I guess is still going on. I would say the biggest thing that sellers have to realize too is we're in a market with rising interest rates. I was doing deals 2 years ago where the buyer could get a 5.5% SBA loan. Right now, those rates are more like 9.5%. And so, most of the SBA loans are adjustable. They adjust quarterly based off the prime rate. So, what sellers have to realize that high interest rates are not just bad for buyers; they're also going to take a toll on what the multiple the seller's going to get, right? Because the buyers can only afford this payment X. And if the interest rates go up, that means sellers are probably going to have to take a little less than had they sold 2 years ago. And I know sellers don't want to hear that, but that's kind of the fact.
Great insight. Jim, for business owners listening who would love to speak with you and get your help, how can they find you and connect with you?
Sure. I would probably say the easiest way would be to go to our website. It's Business Broker Experts Inc.com. Experts is an SINC.com. There's a CEO page. They'll give background on myself. Um, they can also call me direct. I'll give you my number. It's 630-890-5072, and I have a be happy to have any type of initial consultation. Don't charge for either the buyers or the sellers. We mainly work with sellers, but we also do consulting work with buyers as well too.
This has been terrific, Jim. I really appreciate you stopping by and taking the time to share with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
I appreciate the invite, Mark, and it's great working with you.
That was Jim Beno, the CEO of Business Broker Experts Incorporated, and the segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.